For the drive on hole 1 of Extreme Hills, I'm using the rock. I'm going to have the white ring by the rough at the 0 yard mark, about 4 bars of right spin with 3 to 4 bars of top spin. Here I use 3. I'm looking for a specific yardage of around 330. So white ring by the rough, it might vary with a rock 9. I'm going to over adjust my shot with a plus 20% over adjustment and then try to hit perfect. So we know around 330 that this plays at 35% slider with a plus 15% elevation. Anything above 335, we believe it plays with a plus 20% elevation at 35% slider. So here we use 5 backspin with 1 right spin, and then you're going to try and find the funnel. As you see here, I'm just playing around with it to see where I would like to set up, but you kind of want to have it going into the hole and into the center of the cup if you can. You do not have to play with 1 right spin, but a lot of people are using the 1 right spin and it's dropping with great success right now. So again, around 330, you're going to play at 35% slider with a plus 15% elevation. If you go above 330 to around 335, play it at 35% slider with a plus 20% elevation. Here we're playing with the Apoc 6. If you don't feel like using the rock, you're going to use about 3 to 4 bars of top spin with 2 bars of right spin. She's aiming for in between the 2 bunkers there. She's going to over adjust her shot with a plus 20% over adjustment and then try to hit perfect. By using the Apoc, it got her further up the hill. So here she played at 35% slider with a plus 20% over adjustment of her shot. So here she used 5 backspin with 1 right spin and then found the funnel. So again, she played this at 35% slider with a plus 20% over adjustment since she was higher up on the hill. For hole 2, you can use a Kingmaker or a Power 1 side spin 3 wind ball. Here is a Power 1 wind 4 ball with a side spin 3. You're going to use max left spin with 0.5 to 0.7 top spin. You're going to aim to the right edge of the pin and then adjust your shot with a plus 10% over adjustment at mid distance with a Power 2 in your app. You are then going to pull at an 11:59 pull angle. So again, it's going to be with a Power 2 in your app, plus 10% at mid distance of your club. Here we are using a Kingmaker. The Kingmaker is going to play differently. You're going to use max left spin with about 0.5 to 0.7 topspin. I wouldn't go one topspin because you can risk hitting the glitch. You are then going to have your ball set to the right of pin, and you're going to adjust your shot with a plus 5% over adjustment of your shot at mid distance of your sniper. So it's going to play at mid distance with a plus 5% elevation. You will also pull this shot with an 1159 pull angle. Thank you, Michael Bolton Sr., for coming up with this shot. And for the final shot, I used a Power 1 Side Spin 3 Wind 5 ball. I'm going to use max left spin with about 0.5 top spin. It could be hovering around 0.7 as well. I'm going to set up in the meat of the rough bump, where it's the fattest in the rough bump. I am then going to point my target at the hole and then adjust for mid distance with a plus 10% elevation with a Power 2 in my app. I am then going to pull at an 1159 pull angle. So I like to set up further back with the yellow ring in the meat and the thickest part of the rough. It seems to get a better rollout. So those are your options for hole number 2, and on to hole number 3. For hole 3, you can use any driver of your choosing, the one with the most distance and the most top spin allowed. Here I chose my Apoc 6. You can also do a Thor 6 or a Thor 7. I'm going to do all the top spin I can with all the right spin I can. Aiming down the middle, adjusting my shot with a plus 10% over adjustment, and then I'm pushing up one ring on my Apoc just to get it to get down there even further. With a Thor, I believe you can push up to max. So you can see how far you can push it by extending your target to see how many rings you can push up afterwards, and I suggest doing that to get you down there as far as you can. So here I'm looking for a drive of around 400. On a side note, if you do get into long iron range, we believe it's playing at a 40% elevation. Here I drove my ball at 408. Here I was in complete min distance of my sniper. So here I played at min distance with a plus 20% over adjustment. So no matter where you are at on the slider of your club, it's going to play with a plus 20% over adjustment. You want to use at least 3 to 3.1 bars of backspin, and your side spin will vary depending on where you are at on the landing spot. Here I have the white ring by the rough, and it seemed to worked out very well. So again, I over adjusted my shot with a plus 20% over adjustment and try to hit perfect. Thank you to Tony Richardson for the slider numbers from a previous tournament. They still work today, so thank you, Tony Richardson. Hole 4 is still a work in progress, but here we do have a drop. We're going to be playing this at plus 20% over adjustment at maximum distance of our club with a Power 1 in your app. You're going to use 3 bars of left spin and about 1.2 bars of top spin. Here I used more and it came in hot, so we need to decrease the top spin so it doesn't come in so hot. Here I'm just basically trying to aim it short and to just to the left of the cup, basically to have for the offset. So the higher the wind, the more offset you might need, but it seems to be like if you can find where the ball guide glitches and you go to the left of that, it seems to be a perfect aim spot. So again, we're going to be playing this at plus 20% over adjustment at max distance with a Power 1 in your app. For hole 5, we're going to use an Apoc 4 or higher with a Zerk ball. What I'm going to do is do max right spin, and here I'm doing 1.5 backspin since my wind was so high. I'm stretching out so that the rough is in halfway between the clear rings. So you want the rough about halfway into the clear. If you want to play it a little bit safer, have the white ring, the inner white ring touching the rough. You're going to then adjust your shot with a plus 10% over adjustment of your shot, and then you're going to push up to max. the higher the wind, the more backspin you want. So we think around 11 plus, you want about 1 and a click of backspin. Anything below 11, you're going to do 1. If you're in the 9s, I would do maybe a half a bar. Your curl is going to be just outside the triangle, and then you're going to try and hit perfect. There are 2 wind angles on this hole so far. One is more of a tailwind, and one is more of a side wind, and it's going to push your ball more on the side wind. So I believe that setting up with the inner white ring touching the rough and then adjusting your shot will be the safer of the play. With around a 10-mile-an-hour wind here, I only used 1 backspin. I probably could have used a little bit more backspin, but it worked out fine. So you're going to stretch your target out to the inner white ring touching the rough. Then you're going to over adjust your shot with a plus 10% over adjustment, push up to max, and then your curl is going to be just outside the triangle. For hole 6, I'm going to show you 3 different shots because the sniper shot is a little bit different on all of them. For the drives, we are going to go with the rock. You're going to use max left spin with 1.5 backspin in the higher winds. You're going to basically set up so your ball guide is just to the left of the right-hand rough. You're going to over adjust your shot with a plus 15% over adjustment, and then you're going to use around 3/4 of a ball of curl. If your wind is around 7 miles an hour to 7.5, I would only do 1 backspin because I have come up short with a 7-mile-an-hour wind. So you can be cautious with the backspin, but I would say the lower the wind, the less backspin. The higher the wind, the more backspin. So here it was 8.5 with 1.5 backspin, and it came in perfect. If it's a 9-mile-an-hour wind, I would go with a little bit more backspin just to be on the safe side. So for the second shot, since she's so far up, she's going to be just to the right of the rough there. So with her white ring touching, and she finds the sticky spot. So you're going to have your ball around 3 to 4 bars of top spin. Your left and right spin is going to vary. You're just looking for that sticky spot, and then you're looking to be just to the left of that pin. If you are closer to the rough on the left, you are going to use a minus 20% elevation. If you have to come out, you're going to use a minus 30% elevation. So it's explained in the documented notes that Fenzel wrote up on your positioning, so you might want to take a look at the doc that he has posted on the 19th Hole Expert Tournament page. So if your white ring is near the rough, you're going to use minus 20%, and if you are further away, you're going to use minus 30%. Here again, we're going with the rock. She did max left spin with 1.5 backspin. She then adjusted her shot with a plus 15% over adjustment, and then it did about 3/4 of a ball of curl. We're not too sure why this drive came up so short. We think maybe it was underpowered just a tad, or just too much backspin. We're not 100% sure on why this came up so short. But if you're around 316, you're going to basically use around 4 bars of top spin, and she did about 1 bar of left spin. Now she's going to be further away from that rough line, so she's going to use a minus 30% over adjustment. So the further away you are from that rough line, you're going to use a minus 30% over adjustment. So here she did max distance with a minus 30% adjustment, and she's still trying to go to the left of pin with about 4 bars of top spin and 1 bar of left spin. When she was trying to find the spot, she was about a ring into overpower, so she actually moved up a ring and then didn't have to overpower her shot. And one last time, I think the actual wind angle is different. There's one that's more tail and one that's more side. So here you did max left spin, and he only did 1 bar of backspin, I believe, and it should be 1.5. So he butt puckered this shot. So again, you're going to over adjust your shot with a plus 15% over adjustment, and then about 3/4 of a ball of curl. So be careful on that backspin, because around 8.5 to 8.6, I would say do 1.2 backspin. Anything higher than 8.6, I would go 1.5 backspin. Since he was so far up, he was able to play with the minus 20% elevation. So you can see his clear ring and white ring are near the rough to the left. So he's trying to find the sticky spot. So here he was able to only have to do 3 bars of top spin, and I believe he did 1 or 2 bars of left spin as well. So again, the further up you are, the less top spin you will have to use, and the less elevation you'll have to use. So here he played at max distance with a minus 20% elevation, since he was so close to the rough on the left. For hole 7, this is your aim spot. You're going to be using your Guardian. Your blue ring is going to be touching the fairway on the back. Your second bounce is going to be in the middle of the light square, and your third bounce is going to be in the corner of the dark square. You're going to use max backspin with 1 bar of side spin to the right, and then you're going to over adjust your shot with a plus 25% over adjustment at maximum distance of your club. We believe that reducing the wind in this scenario is going to be the better option versus a Kingmaker, but it should work with a Kingmaker as well. So again, you're going to be playing this shot with a plus 25% over adjustment at maximum distance of your club. Again, this shot is being played at maximum distance with a plus 25% over adjustment. I suggest you take a screenshot of this so you can see exactly where the aim spot is. For hole 8, I have about 3 shots here just so you can see the variations of them. Here, Fenzel is playing with a extra mile 8. You're going to basically play with about 4 bars of top spin and 4 bars of right spin, aiming down the center of the fairway. You're going to over adjust your shot with a plus 10% over adjustment, and then take your shot. He used overpower here, but I believe that you do not have to use overpower. At the end of the series, I will show you the slider percentages that were hit thus far. Here he is playing with his thorn. He is going to use 2.9 backspin with 1 right spin, and he's going to be playing this at a minus 10% elevation. Again, I will show you the slider percentages and the yardage marks that we have hit thus far with the thorn and with a hornet. So again, it is being played at a minus 10% elevation. For this next shot, I'm using an Apoc 6. I'm using 4.5 top spin and 4 right spin, aiming down the center of that fairway. Now I'm just trying to push it to see how far I can go, to see where I can get away with still using a thorn and not the end bringer. So here I did 4.5 top spin, 4 right spin, and I adjusted my shot with a plus 10% over adjustment. And I used a little bit of curl because I like to stay away from that rough on the left. So here I was at 360, and I do actually like that shot a lot because it puts me at absolute min thorn range. I use about 4 bars of backspin with 1 right spin, and I adjust my shot with a minus 10% elevation. So I might be doing this in the future, doing 4.5 top spin to push it up there to get myself into absolute min thorn range. Again, the second shot is being played at a minus 10% elevation. And here's another shot that one of our spider ladies did. This time she used 4 bars of top spin with 4 bars of right spin so she could see where she ended up. She again then basically aimed down the center of the fairway and then over adjusted her shot with a plus 10% over adjustment. She opted to play for a hornet so that we had some hornet numbers for you guys as well, and that is also included in the slide after this shot. So there are slider percentages and yardage numbers at the end of this clip, and she also did play this at a minus 10% elevation. For hole 9, there are 2 wind angles. One is going to be a straight cross, and one is going to be a slight tail. Here, I believe it's a slight tail because you didn't have to push up to max very far. You're going to use full top spin, 1 right spin, or 2 to 3 bars of right spin. It's up to you. You're going to aim down the middle, over adjust your shot with a plus 10% over adjustment, and then push up to max. If you feel like using overpower, you should do so, depending on how far you need to push up to max, but I would use some overpower here just to get you down further. But be careful if it's a strong tailwind to not overdo your overpower. At 402, we now know that this plays at mid-distance sniper, so we will have some slider percentages for you at the end of this clip as well. So here he played mid-distance with a plus 15% over adjustment of his shot. He used 3 backspin with 5 right spin, aiming to the left edge of the cup, and then he went and tried to hit perfect. All these shots and more can be found on the 19th Hole Expert Tournament page, and the link will be in the description below. Special thanks to Tony Richardson and Ringers for providing some slider numbers and some shots. And also thank you to the Spider Ladies and Fenzel and Jesse both for helping us with this guide. So again, guys, the link is in the description below for the 19th Hole Expert Tournament page. And remember to hit perfect and happy golfing. Good luck this weekend, guys.